So this Krishna consciousness is about an inner reality. There's an outer reality that we are very familiar with. And most of the time that outer reality gives us a good amount of trouble, a good amount of confusion, a good amount of stress. Now you think, when anyone goes deep into meditation, do they get stressed out? Do they get disappointed? Do they get let down? No. When they go inward, they access a higher realm of peace. So what we want to do here, the yogi, this is describing Ashtanga Yoga, which is a prelude to the next chapter, which will discuss more about this yoga system. In the Bhagavad Gita, Supreme Personality of Godhead will be explaining different yoga systems to elevate ourselves to spiritual life. And he's giving a hint here about the meditation process, which is called Ashtanga Yoga. And this is a mechanical means whereby you automatically or you manually control your mind, your senses, and your absorption within. By that, you don't get bewildered by everything happening outside of you. Most of the time, we're bewildered by external events, things happening outside of us. Even our own mind and body is outside of us. We observe the mind, don't we? You can't observe something that you are. The fact that we observe the mind means we're not the mind. So we observe our mind. We observe our body. We observe our thoughts, our emotions. So who are we? That means we're none of those. We're the soul. And we have a deeper, higher identity that will be discovered in due course in the process of Krishna consciousness. So if we really want the real thing, then we should take up the process of how to get it. If we're looking for real love, if we're looking for real compassion, real friendship, real enjoyment, you name it, humor, adventure, we have to learn how to look inward. And what is inward? The Supersoul, Krishna, the Supreme Person. He's within us. Prabhupada says, in being engaged in Krishna consciousness, one can immediately understand one's spiritual identity. Then one can understand the Supreme Lord by means of devotional service. When one is well situated, one comes to the transcendental position, qualified to feel the presence of the Lord in the sphere of one's activity. So this is what we're all craving. We want to feel something in the sphere of our activity, and the highest thing you can feel is the presence of God. If you can feel the presence of God in the sphere of your activity, you've achieved everything. The Gita teaches that one who achieves this, they think there's no greater gain. So imagine you achieve something and you can't, there's nothing better, there's nothing greater. Can we think of anything in the world like that? No. In the world, we can always think of something greater. If you get $1 billion, you want $2 billion. If you get a yacht, then you want a cruise ship. We can always think of something superior. But this thing, if you get this, nothing can be imagined superior. Upon gaining this, one thinks there's no greater gain. Now, how do I apply it? How can I get it? That means our intelligence is working properly. So this is a mechanical process, and Srila Prabhupada is bringing our attention that Krishna consciousness is the easiest way of executing yoga. So when you do bhakti, you already get the fruit of all this. How? Because your senses become controlled. When you start meditating on an inner reality, automatically you're not so interested in the external reality. What can it give you? You know, a bag of Skittles. Is that what it comes down? Is that what life is about? Just eating something tasty? Whatever we're thinking is so good about the external world, it's very limited compared to the inner world. And the great connoisseurs of the inner world, they come to bring us the message that, hey, you guys are missing out. In the material world, they try to tell us we're missing out. Oh, you're giving up intoxication. Man, you guys are missing out. But the great sadhus and saints and sages, they tell us, hey, why are you guys drinking that fermented toxic poison? You guys are really missing out the real thing. It's like this. We can easily defeat the materialistic invitation by higher experience. We've experienced it. We went through it. We realized, oh, It's not actually that great. And we have higher knowledge from higher authorities. So we have more realization. And people go crazy for those things simply because they've not tasted the spiritual bliss. You'll find people who are less intoxicated materially, they're more happy. They have a natural happiness about life. They'll be smiling much more. And someone who's all the time chasing after sensual, immediate gratification, they'll be looking depressed. Why? Because they've become habituated to some type of gratification outside of their soul, material. So you see people in the villages, they can just chant, they can just be more, they're more human, they're more real. This whole Western, movement that we have is very artificial, and therefore we're seeing so much more drugs, addiction, suicide, depression. It's a red flag. Okay, we're going wrong here. We thought it was just get the money and get the power and you'll get the happiness. Guess what? It didn't work out. It didn't work out for anyone. But here, the great sages, they're teaching us. The better way of controlling the senses is Krishna consciousness. Automatically you'll start feeling happiness. You'll start getting that inner happiness. One can attain perfect peace only in complete Krishna consciousness. So this is the deeper subtleties of it, that we have to accept we are not supreme. We have achieved this body. Modern science, chemists, they are fascinated by the body. The body is an extremely complex organism. It heals itself. It digests food automatically. It has a very elaborate nervous and lymphatic system that preserves its health. It removes bacteria and viruses. It grows. These are all mystical things. We have to claim, I am not responsible for this. This was not my doing. I've achieved this body. Where did it come from? Who's behind it? Who engineered it? That is God. You look at nature. So we have to accept we are not supreme. We are in a subordinate position. Yes, we are junior. And when we accept the supreme, there is a supreme being. Then bhakti begins. Then we can develop, what is my relationship with that supreme being? That takes the humility. When some of us are trying to get it, some people have it, some don't have it. And therefore they can't really understand. They can't really get into this. But by gradual purification, everyone can. This is a higher form of consciousness. This is a more evolved awakening of the soul. And it's common sense in one sense. But if you don't have the purification of heart, you can't realize it. Therefore, people who are, so in the other energy, they're so bewildered, then for them it's just beyond the reach of their understanding. And we get to play a role. We are expanded parts of God. In other words, this word Ishvara means there's different controllers. Even we're a type of Ishvara, we're a type of controller. But we're not the supreme controller. So the controller who has no controller beyond him or her, that's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Krishna exists in simultaneously a male and female aspect. Krishna and Radha, or Hare and Krishna. Yeah, it's all there. So the Supreme Being, we understand, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities. So we have to purify our consciousness so we can get more and more into this, and more into an understanding and realization of that. And that happens primarily through the chanting of the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This is our primary practice of Bhakti Yoga. Chanting these holy names. The names of the Supreme Being are spiritual. When we chant them, we get purified. So most of us have a practice where regularly, each day, we spend time doing this mantra meditation. And it's there in Bhagavad Gita. If you haven't come across it yet, you can learn about it. There's websites also, krishna.com. You You can learn how to do this mantra meditation. And in that way, we purify our heart. All living entities attain peace from the pangs of material miseries. So the peace formula is here. If you really want peace, you just have to understand this point. Otherwise, it says we're all living entities. We're looking for peace in the material world. That's what it's this craving that we have for peace, right? It's universal. All over the world, all over the universe, people are seeking peace. Why? Because it's natural. It's the order of life. But without this formula, they're not going to get it. It doesn't matter how many movements are there, how many countries or United Nations. If you don't understand this point of the Supreme Being, you can't get it. Because that peace is a deeper peace which comes from the soul. And these other movements are from the mind, from the intelligence, from the ego. My country, as soon as there's this nationalism, how can there be peace? By nature, this is putting one people against another. So all these movements, they're still on the material platform. But this movement will give real peace to the world, individually and collectively. If we want the peace for ourselves, we have to discover this. And if we want peace for the world, not just the human beings, but all species. The animals also are looking for peace. No one wants to be slaughtered. Even the animals. They don't want to be brutally decapitated. That's not what the animal's looking for. So the animals wanted to. The peace has to be for all living beings. Isn't that an enlightened view? Isn't that a beautiful thing? Isn't that a beautiful vision? Yeah. Who's going to disagree with that? No one. But we have to know how to achieve that, how to awaken that. And that we find here in the pages of Bhagavad Gita. There's a pure spiritual realm where there's spiritual relationships, loving exchanges, of which this material world is a reflection. It's a perverted reflection. Because here our relationships are based on selfishness. But imagine a place where it's a realm of pure love, and only love is allowed there. So that's where we're trying to go. Until we can learn that and evolve to that sphere, we have to stay here. But once we learn it, guess what? You get promoted to that realm.